Question 12. The table shows the distances that 100 people travel to work each day. Calculate an estimate of the mean distance traveled. Pause now, try to do this question and unpause to see how it's done. You're told that this table is the distances that 100 people travel to work each day. So they've asked 100 people how far they travel to work every day. And so they've recorded it in this table, and so they've said 11 people travel, so the distance that they travel is 0 is less than the distance they travel is less than or equal to 4. So it's 4 kilometers or less, and so on. 4 is less than the distance they travel is less than or equal to 8. So this group here travel between 4 and 8. Although if they travel exactly 4, then they're up here. This is equal to 4, less than or equal to 4, and this is D here will be greater than 4, but less than or equal to 8, and so on and so on and so on. You have to calculate an estimate. That's a very important word, an estimate. So it doesn't have to be exactly correct, but it has to be consistently estimated of the mean distance traveled. The mean is a type of average. That's when you add up all the values and you divide the answer by the number of values that you added up. The first thing, what it's asking you here is to complete this table. So the first thing you need to do is find the midpoint of these. Well, the midpoint between 0 kilometers and 4 kilometers is 2. And the reason why you find a midpoint is because you don't know, for example, someone in here could have traveled 3 kilometers, someone in here could have traveled 1 kilometer, they could have traveled 2.5 kilometers. You don't know. It was only broken down into categories: 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 20. So we're taking an average by getting the midpoint, so the middle between 0 and 4, which is 2, and that's going to be part of our average. So the midpoint of 4 and 8, 6. The midpoint of 8 and 12 is 10. The midpoint of 12 and 16 is 14. And the midpoint of 16 to 20 is 18. And in case you don't know how I'm getting those midpoints, subtract the first value from the second value, and then halve it, and then add it to the first value. So 4 minus 0 is 0. Divide that by 2 or halve it. Half of 4 is 2. 0 plus 2, 2. 12 minus 8 is 4. 4 in half is 2, so add 2 to 8 and you get 10. You can see that each time you're just adding 2 to the first value. So once you do it for the first one, you can easily do them. Or you can just see 16 to 20, there's a distance of 4 there. So 2 more than 16 or 2 less than 20 will be right in the middle. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 18 is right in the middle. The next thing to do is to work out an average. 11 people, it says a frequency of 11. So 11 people travel between 0 and 4 kilometers to work every day. We said that the midpoint of that is 2. So we don't know who's traveled 1 kilometer, who's traveled 3. So we're just using 2 as a midpoint to help find our average. 11 people traveled 2 kilometers, we're saying, to work. So altogether that is 22 kilometers that they traveled. 23 people traveled 6 kilometers. So we're going to do here 23 times 6, which is going to be equal to 6 times 3, 18. Carry the 1, and 6 times 2 is 12, plus the 1 we carried, 13. So 138. 36 times 10, you should know, is 360. 20 times 14 is the same. 20 is 2 times 10. So you can do simply 2 times 14 times 10, because it doesn't matter what order you multiply them in. 2 times 14, or just double of 14, is 28. 28 times 10, 280. And 10 times 18, 180. We've completed our table. This now is the distances that these people traveled. We've rounded the distances that they've traveled because we don't know the exact amount for each person because it's been categorized. We are going to add these up and then divide by the number of people. So the first thing we will do is, and I recommend you do this using the column method of addition. So I've written down these numbers. So instead of writing down 22, I've written down 0, 100 and 22 because there are numbers in the hundreds column, and it's better to not leave it blank. It's better to write down 0 instead of blank. And you add these up. So 2 plus 8 is 10. Write down 0, carry the 1. 8 plus 2 is 10. 8 plus 3 is 11, that's 21. Plus 6 is 7. Plus the 1 we carried, 28. Write down 8, carry the 2, because it was 28. And 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Plus 2 is 9. So the total is 980. So I'm going to write, so I'll leave that there, 980. We were told, now we could, at this stage, we have 980 kilometers were traveled. When we rounded, we're trying to find the mean average, remember? 980 kilometers were traveled altogether. We need to now divide that by the number of people who traveled, and we will have the mean average. So the mean distance traveled, an estimate of that. We could add this frequency up to see how many people, but actually the question tells us it's 100 people. So 980 divided by 100, you should know, you start, so this 980 is the same as 980.0. So there's an invisible decimal point here if you like. So 980 divided by 10, just move your finger across one number. 980 divided by 10 would be 98.0, and 980 divided by 100, move another space across with your finger, and this is where your decimal point will be, 9.80 or 9.8. So let's write that down. 980 divided by 100 is equal to 9.8, and I'll just make that bigger so you can see it. And so the mean distance, an estimate of the mean distance traveled is 9.8 kilometers. So I'm going to just put down km, and that's your final answer, 9.8 kilometers. And now I'm going to check the mark scheme to see if I'm correct. And yes, down the bottom it says 9.8 is A1. So if you got that, give yourself 4 marks. Give yourself 1 mark if you got the correct midpoints times the correctly rounded frequencies. So, they've actually rounded the frequencies as well. So that could make it even easier. I left these frequencies as 22, 138, 360, and so on. 11, 23, 36. They rounded those to 10, 20, 40, and so on. Yeah, or you could have just left them this way. Correct midpoints times correct frequencies, which is what I did. Give yourself, allow 1 error if you made an error at that stage in one of those multiplying. Whatever, you give yourself another mark if whatever midpoint you got times whatever frequency, they must all be consistent, so all rounded or all not rounded, and whatever your 980 was divided by divided by 100, if you wrote that down anywhere when you added all the frequencies up, give yourself 1 mark and give yourself 4 marks if you got the correct answer. The text solution to this video is available on videogcsc.com.